forgotten myth. For thousands of years, the galaxy told stories about a strange and dangerous race. Some said they were gods of war, others said they were clever tricksters. Most believed they were only a myth, old tales to scare children and young soldiers. The name of that race was whispered like a ghost from the past. They called them humans. Alien historians argued about it for centuries. Some found broken records, fragments of ancient battles where humans were said to fight against impossible odds. The stories claimed they had fire in their spirit, something no other species could match. But because no one had seen a human for so long, the galaxy decided the stories were nothing but legends. Myths, dust, forgotten history. Generations passed. Empires rose and fell. The name human faded from memory. On the edge of the galaxy, only a few scholars still studied the myth. They were mocked for wasting time. Humans never existed, people said. And if they did, they are long gone. But then, small whispers began. At first, only rumors. Strange signals coming from deep space. Broken transmissions filled with strange patterns. Traders spoke of ships with designs no one recognized. A few brave scouts reported shadows moving in the dark, massive structures drifting through empty space. Yet when they tried to prove it, the evidence vanished. The galaxy laughed again. Fairy tales, they said. Still, the whispers did not stop. One scout, a young officer from the Zalari Empire, was stationed at the far border. His job was simple: watch the empty skies and make reports. Night after night he stared at the void, expecting nothing. But one night something changed. His scanners picked up a signal, strong, clear, and ancient. It carried symbols that no one in the Empire could translate. The officer felt fear crawl up his spine. The signal repeated a single word again and again, a word that every alien had heard in the old stories, a word that should not exist anymore. The signal said, human. He froze. His hands shook as he sent the report. His commanders dismissed it immediately. Impossible, they said. Nothing but a trick, maybe static from a dying star. They laughed and told him to get rest. But the young officer could not sleep. He had seen the signal with his own eyes. It was real. The next week, his scanners showed something far worse. A shadow appeared at the edge of the system. At first it looked like an asteroid, massive and slow, but the shape was too sharp, too perfect. The shadow carried lights, and those lights formed patterns like eyes staring through the dark. As it drew closer, the scanners confirmed the nightmare. It was not an asteroid. It was a ship, and not just any ship. It was a warship. The officer stared at it in silence. His heart pounded in his chest. The warship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever built. Its design was sharp, heavy, and terrifying. It looked alive, as if the void itself had forged it. And across its surface, etched in white steel, were markings, old symbols. Symbols he remembered from the history books. Symbols that belonged to the myth. He whispered to himself, humans. Panic spread through the border outpost. Alarm screamed as soldiers scrambled to their stations. Messages were sent to command. The first reports described it as a ghost ship, a relic of the past. But the truth became clear when more ships appeared behind it. One warship, then 2, then 5. A whole fleet rising from the darkness, moving with calm, deadly purpose. The Zalari commanders tried to maintain control. "It is a mistake," they shouted. "These are pirates, or old wrecks controlled by AI." But deep down they knew. The myth had returned. Across the galaxy, leaders received the reports. At first they laughed. The humans? Impossible. But as more fleets appeared, as more border stations fell silent, the laughter turned to fear. Empires began to whisper among themselves. Could it be true? Could humans still exist? And if they had survived, what had they become? The forgotten myth was no longer forgotten. It stood at the edge of the galaxy, silent but powerful, like a storm waiting to strike. The galaxy, once certain that humans were gone forever, now faced the chilling possibility that the stories were true. The young officer who first saw the warship sat frozen in his chair. His eyes never left the scanner. He could not believe what he was witnessing, yet he knew this was history. He knew the galaxy would never be the same again. For centuries, the galaxy thought humans were only shadows of the past. But tonight, under the cold stars, the shadows had taken shape. They had returned with warships, and they were watching. The myth of humanity was alive, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. First contact at the borders, the Zalari Empire had always been proud of its power. Their fleet stretched across hundreds of systems, their colonies filled with wealth, and their soldiers feared across the stars. To them, the galaxy was under their control. Myths and old stories were nothing compared to their weapons and their walls. When reports of human warships came in, the High Council laughed. Humans? One commander scoffed. A bedtime story. The officers at the border are nervous fools. They silenced the young officer who had first seen the fleet. They erased his report from the official archives and ordered the scouts to stop spreading panic. But the galaxy was not listening to them anymore. Something was happening at the borders, and it could not be hidden. A week later, the truth arrived in the form of fire. The Zalari outpost at Krylon 7 went dark. At first, Command thought it was a malfunction. But then, fragments of desperate transmissions arrived. Static, screams, a single word, shouted again and again. Humans. When the Council finally admitted something was wrong, it was too late. A massive fleet had moved beyond the border. Alien traders, smugglers, and mercenaries saw it first. Huge black warships sliding silently through space. Their design was unfamiliar. Hard angles, sharp edges, engines burning with cold white light. They did not look like explorers. They looked like executioners. The Zalari Navy was ordered to intercept. They sent a fleet of 50 ships, fast, heavily armed, ready for battle. The soldiers were confident. They had fought pirates, rebels, and rival empires. They thought they could handle anything. But when the two fleets met at the border, confidence turned into terror. The human warships did not speak. No greeting, no negotiation, no demand. They simply advanced in perfect silence, as if the galaxy itself had gone mute. The Zalari commander ordered his ships to open fire. Beams of energy lit the void, hundreds of weapons striking at once. But the human ships barely moved. Their shields absorbed the impact like rain falling on stone. Then, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw humans fight. The human fleet unleashed its weapons, and the stars themselves seemed to burn. Their cannons fired with brutal precision, cutting through enemy ships as if they were made of paper. One shot, one kill. Zalari destroyers cracked open like glass. Cruisers burned, their cores exploding into light. In minutes, 20 ships were gone. The rest tried to flee, but the humans were faster, sharper, more ruthless. The commander screamed, "Orders! Retreat! Retreat!" His voice shook as he watched his fleet vanish in fire. His last transmission, before his ship was torn apart, was only 2 words. "They're real." News spread faster than light. The Zalari Empire tried to control the panic, but every smuggler, every trader, every miner at the border saw the truth. A new fleet had come. A fleet carrying the banner of a forgotten race. A race that was not supposed to exist anymore. Fear spread across the stars. Empires that once mocked the myth of humanity now held secret meetings. Their leaders whispered, in dark halls, their voices trembling. Some said the humans had returned to claim revenge for the old wars. Others said they had hidden away, building weapons in silence, waiting for the right moment. On the outer colonies, soldiers told each other nervous jokes. Maybe they will pass us by. Maybe they are here for Zalari only. But the fear never left their eyes. They had seen the recordings, the clean, surgical way human warships destroyed everything in their path. This was not just war. This was a storm. In one distant system, a merchant ship tried to hail the human fleet. The captain thought he could negotiate. Perhaps humans wanted trade, not blood. He sent signals in dozens of languages, offering supplies, maps, information. The humans never replied. Their fleet passed his ship without a word, silent and unstoppable like ghosts wrapped in steel. The galaxy began to realize something terrifying. Humans were not searching for peace. They were not asking for allies. They had returned with a purpose no one could understand, and they did not need to explain themselves. Back in the Zalari capital, the High Council argued through the night. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others screamed for war. "We cannot bow to a myth," one senator shouted. But even as they argued, more reports arrived. Outposts falling, fleets destroyed, human warships advancing deeper every day. The young officer who had first seen them sat alone in his cell, imprisoned for spreading lies. Now the guards avoided him, whispering with fear. They knew he had spoken the truth, and he knew something far darker. The humans had only just begun. As the second week ended, one final message echoed through the galaxy. It was a simple transmission, sent in every language known. The words were cold, clear, and left no doubt. "We are not a myth. We are human. We have returned." And then the message ended. The galaxy stared into the silence, hearts frozen. They now knew the truth. The forgotten myth was not forgotten anymore. Humanity had returned to the borders of the galaxy, and they were not asking for permission to enter. The power of return. Galaxy had seen wars before. Empires rose and fell, fleets clashed, borders shifted, but nothing was like this. The return of humans was not just another conflict, it was a storm that ripped through the stars. The Zalari Empire tried to regroup after their defeat. They gathered new fleets, stronger and larger. Hundreds of ships stood ready at the border. The commanders promised victory. "They are only shadows," they said. "We will crush them." But deep inside, the soldiers remembered the recordings. The clean way human warships destroyed entire fleets. The silence, the precision. Many soldiers whispered to each other, "How can we fight ghosts?" When the second battle came, the galaxy held its breath. The Zalari ships spread across the system, ready for war. Their weapons locked, their shields raised. For a moment, the void was silent. Then, the humans arrived. They came not in dozens, but in hundreds. Warships filled the darkness, engines burning like cold fire. They did not rush, they did not panic. They advanced slowly, steadily, like predators who already knew the hunt was theirs. The battle began with desperate courage. The Zalari fleet opened fire first. Thousands of beams cut across the void, lighting the system with fire. Explosions burned across space. Yet the human ships moved like steel shadows. Their shields flickered, but they did not break. And then the humans struck. One by one, their cannons fired. They did not waste energy. Each shot was perfect. A cruiser fell. A battleship cracked in two. Carriers burst into flames. The precision was terrifying, almost inhuman. It was as if every human ship carried centuries of hate, every weapon guided by a hand that never missed. Within an hour, the mighty Zalari fleet was gone. Wrecks drifted through the void, burning like broken suns. Only a handful of survivors escaped, their ships scarred and broken. They carried with them the message no one wanted to hear. The humans could not be stopped. Word spread faster than fire. The galaxy, once proud and arrogant, now trembled. Old legends were retold in whispers. Some said humans were born from war itself. Others claimed they were a cursed species, punished by the stars but never destroyed. Whatever the truth was, one thing was clear. Humans had returned stronger than before. Empires that once mocked the myth now begged for alliances. Races that had laughed at human stories now prayed in silence, hoping the fleet would pass them by. But the humans did not stop. They advanced from system to system, their warships moving like a tide no one could resist. On the trade routes, merchants abandoned their ships. Some even surrendered without a fight, leaving their stations empty. They had seen what happened to those who resisted. Resistance was not bravery, it was suicide. In the great capital worlds, fear spread through the halls of power. Leaders argued, screamed, and begged for answers. Some suggested surrender, others demanded new weapons. But no weapon they had could match what the humans brought, for when human fleets destroyed their enemies, they left behind ruins, but not silence. They left messages, short, clear, impossible to misunderstand. We remember. Those two words appeared on broken satellites carved into destroyed ships, left on the ruins of military stations. It was not just war. It was a statement. The humans had not forgotten. Whatever had driven them away in the past, whatever pain or war had broken them, they remembered. And now, they had returned to remind the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood what true fear meant. Fear not of weapons, not of fleets, but of a people who had vanished and come back stronger. The power of return was not just in their ships, it was in their silence. Humans did not explain themselves. They did not ask for talks. They did not argue in councils. They simply acted, and their actions were louder than any words. 1,000 questions filled the minds of alien leaders. Where had the humans been all this time? How had they built such fleets in secret? Why had they returned now after centuries of silence? But the humans gave no answers. Their warships were the only answer the galaxy would get. In the broken remains of the Zolari capital, as smoke filled the skies, the people finally understood the truth. The humans were not shadows. They were not myths. They were survivors. And survival had made them stronger than ever. One survivor, an old general, whispered to his staff before the end, "They fight like a race that has nothing left to fear. That is their power. That is why we will lose." Across the galaxy, the legend spread. The myth had become real, and the power of return had shaken every empire to its core. The galaxy had once thought humans were gone, but now, faced with their fleets, their weapons, and their silence, everyone knew the truth. Humans had not just returned, they had returned to remind the galaxy of who truly ruled the stars. Fear, across the stars. Fear is a strange thing. It does not move with ships. It does not need fleets or armies. It spreads on its own, silent, invisible, unstoppable. And now, fear of the humans stretched across the stars. Every empire, every colony, every station whispered the same word. Humans, merchants, avoided the borders. Colonies sent desperate messages for protection. Soldiers stood at their posts pretending to be brave, but their eyes told the truth. They had seen the recordings, the black warships gliding through space, the precision of their weapons, the silence after the battles. No one forgot the silence. In the great halls of the Varn Dominion, leaders argued day and night. Some demanded alliances against the humans. Others shouted for surrender. The council chambers echoed with fear, but every message sent to the humans ended the same way: silence. They did not answer. They did not negotiate. They did not even acknowledge the existence of their enemies. The silence was worse than any threat. When human fleets entered a system, entire planets froze. Civilian ships powered down and drifted, hoping not to be noticed. Some colonies destroyed their own military stations before the humans arrived, believing it would save them. Yet the humans did not come to talk or to conquer with words. They came with warships, and the galaxy could only watch. One small mining world tried to resist. They gathered their militia, a fleet of old ships armed with weak weapons. The miners were brave, but bravery was not enough. The human fleet entered orbit, and in less than an hour, the militia was gone. The planet's defenses burned. But then, something strange happened. The humans did not destroy the colony itself. They left it standing. They erased only the weapons. The miners lived, but they lived in fear, staring at the sky each night, waiting for the warships to return. It became clear, the humans did not need to destroy everything. Fear was their true weapon. Across the galaxy, strange stories spread. A lone freighter claimed it saw human soldiers boarding derelict ships, tall figures in dark armor, their helmets glowing like fire. Another report spoke of abandoned satellites, reprogrammed to send the same chilling words. We remember. The myths grew with every passing day. Some said humans could not be killed. Others believed they had made pacts with the void itself. The truth did not matter anymore. Fear had done its work. Empires that had once been enemies now looked at each other with suspicion. Will the humans strike you first or us? Trust broke apart. Old alliances crumbled. Leaders fought each other instead of facing the storm together. And the humans kept advancing, system by system, border by border, unstoppable. The galaxy was not just afraid of human power. It was afraid of human silence. Every other race shouted their victories, sang their wars, carved their names into the stars. But the humans did not. They left wreckage and silence, and the silence screamed louder than words. In one star system, an alien commander surrendered before the humans even fired a shot. He powered down his fleet, opened every communication channel, and begged for mercy. The humans ignored him. They passed through the system, destroying only a single military station before vanishing again into the dark. The commander lived, but the shame broke him. He told his people, "It is not victory they want. It is memory. They want us to remember who they are," and the galaxy did remember. In academies, students once laughed at the human myth. Now their teachers whispered human history as warnings. In taverns, old soldiers who once dismissed the legends now sat in silence, gripping their drinks, afraid to speak the name out loud. Parents told their children to behave, or else the humans would come. The myth had become the galaxy's nightmare, and still no one understood the reason. Why had the humans returned? Why now? What did they want? Every empire sent spies. None came back. Every council sent envoys. None returned. The humans answered only with their fleets. On the edge of the galaxy, in a secret chamber, the rulers of 3 great empires met in the dark. Their voices trembled as they spoke. "We must unite, or we are lost." But even as they argued, fear poisoned their alliance. None trusted the other. None dared to make the first move. The humans had not just returned with warships. They had returned with something far more powerful: control of the galaxy's fear. And fear was tearing the galaxy apart from the inside. The young Zalari officer, once mocked as a fool, now sat in silence in his prison. The guards no longer laughed at him. They whispered rumors of human fleets moving closer, of entire sectors falling without a fight. He stared at the walls, knowing the truth. The galaxy thought humans were just a myth, but myths do not burn fleets. Myths do not shatter empires. Only humans could do that, and soon every star would learn the same truth. Humanity's message. The galaxy waited in silence. Empires that once shouted their pride now whispered in fear. Entire fleets refused to leave their stations. Colonies closed their ports. Trade routes were empty. Every world stared at the stars, afraid that the next shadow in the sky would be a human warship. And then, the message came. It began on the outer colonies. A deep voice, cold and heavy, filled every channel. It carried through satellites, trade, beacons, and even old emergency bands. The voice spoke in dozens of languages at once, a chorus that no one could ignore. "We are human. We are not a myth. We have returned." The words shook the stars. Entire planets froze, listening. No one moved. No one spoke. The humans had broken their silence at last. But the message did not stop there. It spread across every system the humans had touched. On ruined stations, the same words glowed on broken walls. On drifting wreckage, holograms replayed the same sentence. On abandoned colonies, the phrase was carved into the ground so large that entire cities could see it from orbit. Hawaii. Galaxy had asked for answers. The humans had given one. The Zalari Empire, once proud and unbroken, collapsed under the weight of that truth. Their fleets were gone, their leaders scattered, their people terrified. In the streets of their capital, soldiers dropped their weapons, whispering to themselves, "The humans are real, the humans are here." Other empires tried to stay strong. Some broadcast promises of resistance, others begged for peace, but the humans never replied. Their silence returned, and the silence was worse than the war. For weeks, the galaxy lived in fear of the next move. But instead of conquest, instead of destruction, the humans did something stranger. Their fleets spread out, not to burn worlds, but to surround them. They hovered at the edges of systems, silent and still, like watchers in the night. The people did not understand. Why destroy fleets but leave colonies alive? Why strike with power only to vanish again? What was the purpose of this storm? One theory spread faster than the rest. The humans were not here for land, or resources, or conquest. They were here for memory. They wanted the galaxy to remember who they were. They wanted the galaxy to never forget again. And then, one night, the true message came. On every channel, in every system, the human fleet spoke again. Their voice was calm, sharp, and filled with weight. "We are the children of Earth. Long ago you erased our name. You called us a myth. You told the stars we were gone. But we endured. We fought. We built. And now we have returned. We do not ask for your permission. We do not ask for your mercy. We ask only this: remember us." The words echoed through the galaxy. Some fell to their knees, others wept. Leaders sat frozen, knowing their empires had no power to stop what was coming. Then, the message grew darker. "If you resist, we will break you. If you bow, we will ignore you. But no matter what you choose, you will remember us. For we are not myths. We are not shadows. We are human. And this galaxy is ours, as much as it is yours." After that, silence returned. The fleets remained in orbit, watching, waiting. They did not fire. They did not move. They simply stayed, as if daring the galaxy to forget again. The effect was worse than any war. Fear turned into obedience. No empire dared to fight. No council dared to plan resistance. The galaxy had been reminded of the one truth it had buried. The humans were not gone. They had never been gone. They had only been waiting. The young Zalari officer, the first to see the human fleet, was released from his cell. He stood outside the prison walls and looked up at the sky. There, above his world, he saw the shape of a human warship. It did not move. It did not fire. It simply hung in the dark, silent and eternal. He whispered to himself, "The myth has become the master." And across the stars, billions of voices whispered the same thing. The name that had been forgotten now returned in full strength. A name that carried fear, respect, and power. Humans. The galaxy had thought they were only stories, but the stories had risen, armed with fleets, armed with silence, armed with memory, and now the galaxy would never forget again. The message was complete. We are back. We are not a myth. We are human. And the stars themselves seemed to tremble as the galaxy bowed to the truth. The void of space was silent. Cold stars shone across the dark emptiness, but that night the silence was broken. The Galactic Empire's war fleet waited at the edge of a dying star system. Hundreds of cruisers and battleships formed a wall of steel. Their weapons glowed, their engines burned, and their commanders whispered about the new enemy they had been ordered to face. Then it came. From hyperspace, a single shadow tore through the void. At first, the scanners screamed. Signals went wild, sensors failed, and alarms echoed across the Empire's ships. Then the shadow shaped itself into something massive. A ship. But not like any ship they had ever seen before. It was the human dreadnought. The ship's size dwarfed the Empire's largest battleships. Its hull was made of black steel, reflecting no light, swallowing the stars around it. Strange energy pulsed across its sides like living veins of fire. No insignia, no decoration, only silence and power. The dreadnought moved forward with a slow, steady weight, as if space itself bent under its presence. Admirals across the Empire fleet froze. They had seen human ships before, small cruisers, carriers, and fighters that fought with reckless courage. But this was something new. This was something terrifying. Impossible, one commander whispered. Humans should not have this kind of power. The dreadnought stopped in the center of the system facing the Empire fleet. It did not fire. It did not move. It only waited, like a predator staring at prey that dared to gather too close. The Empire's flagship, a golden vessel shaped like a spear, broadcasted across the fleet. This is the Empire's chance. One ship against thousands. Destroy them before they strike. Yet no one moved. The memory of past wars burned inside the minds of the alien commanders. Humanity was small, weak, and new to the galaxy. But they were stubborn. They fought like cornered animals, never surrendering, never breaking. Now looking at the dreadnought, every admiral knew that something had changed. Humanity was no longer cornered. Humanity was rising. Inside the dreadnought, the human commander stood before a vast bridge of steel and glass. Screens showed thousands of hostile ships surrounding them, weapons ready, fear burning behind their aggression. The commander's eyes were calm, steady, unshaken. He spoke softly, almost as if talking to himself. Let them see. Let them understand what humanity has become. The dreadnought's crew worked in silence. Each officer moved with discipline, with precision, as if they had trained for this very moment for years. They did not tremble. They did not doubt. Humanity's survival was written into their bones, and now it was time to show the galaxy why no empire could crush them. Outside, alien ships adjusted their formation. Fighters spread like insects. Heavy cruisers locked their targeting systems. The dreadnought remained still, watching. It was not afraid. It was waiting. Admiral, one alien captain whispered to his superior. Why does it not attack? The admiral's face was pale. Because it does not need to. It wants us to fire first. Tension cracked like lightning across the fleet. Every second felt like an hour. The void between the Empire and the dreadnought became a battlefield of silence. Commanders clenched their claws, their tentacles, their armored hands, staring into the abyss and feeling it stare back. Finally, a voice cut through the darkness. It was human, calm, cold, terrifying. This is Commander of the Dreadnought Invictus. Galactic Empire Fleet, you are standing in violation of our boundary. Withdraw now. Fire upon us and you will not survive. The message echoed across every ship. The voice carried no anger, no fear, only certainty. It was not a threat. It was a promise, Empire admirals shouted in fury. They dare speak to us like this? One ship against the Empire? But under the shouting there was fear. The soldiers could hear it in their voices. They remembered the battles where humans fought to the last breath. They remembered colonies that should have been wiped out, only to rise again, stronger and more dangerous. Now, the Empire faced not a colony, not a fleet, but a single ship that carried the weight of humanity's will. The dreadnought's engines pulsed once, shaking the void. Its weapons lit for a brief second, glowing with unknown power. The sight sent waves of panic through the Empire's formation. Some captains pulled their ships back without orders. Others froze, waiting for commands that did not come. The galaxy had never seen this before. Humanity had always been underestimated, ignored, dismissed as savage. But now, standing before the Empire's armada, humanity revealed its answer. They were no longer survivors. They were no longer the hunted, they were the hunters. The commander's voice spoke again. You have one chance, leave or be destroyed. The Empire's fleet held its breath. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all staring at one ship, one shadow, one human weapon that could not be ignored. The dreadnought waited, silent, watching. And in that silence, the galaxy changed. The Galactic Empire's fleet stretched across the dark void like a wall of steel. Thousands of ships, each armed with weapons strong enough to burn worlds, surrounded the human dreadnought. Yet none of them moved. None of them fired. The admirals of the Empire sat in silence. Their ships were mighty, their numbers overwhelming, but their hearts trembled. The dreadnought had not attacked. It had only spoken, and that voice still echoed inside their minds. cold, steady, certain. Fire upon us and you will not survive. On the flagship, Grand Admiral Cathar gripped the edge of his command throne. His scaled hands shook, though he tried to hide it. He had led campaigns across the galaxy, crushing rebellions, silencing worlds, enslaving species. But never had a single ship stopped him from giving the order to fire. His officers shifted nervously. "Admiral," one asked in a whisper, "shall we strike?" Our numbers mean nothing," Cathar snapped. His golden eyes stayed locked on the massive shadow of the dreadnought. It sat unmoving like a mountain in the void, daring them to test its strength. Whispers filled the fleet. Captains argued across comm channels. Some demanded attack, some begged for retreat. Old stories of humanity crept into their minds. Stories of colonies that had resisted extermination, of soldiers who fought without fear, of battles where humans had turned defeat into victory. "They are only humans," one commander hissed. "Savages who crawl in the dirt of lesser worlds." Yet even as he spoke, his voice shook. He remembered the war at Telros. His brother had commanded there. An entire legion of the Empire had marched to crush a human outpost. Only a few hundred humans defended it, but they had fought for days using fire, using steel, using their bare hands when weapons failed. When the smoke cleared, the humans were dead. But so were half of the Empire's legion. That memory was burned into the galaxy. Humanity was dangerous not because of their technology, but because of their will. And now that will was made into steel. Into the dreadnought. The silence grew heavier. The dreadnought did not move, but every second felt like a blade pressing closer to the Empire's throat. Finally, the Empire's Council of Admirals connected through a secure channel. Their holograms flickered in the air above the flagship's throne room. "This cannot continue," said Admiral Valen, her insect-like mandibles clacking. "If we do nothing, our fleet looks weak." "The Empire looks weak. We must strike, and if we strike," another admiral replied, "what if the ship is as powerful as it appears? What if it destroys us? The galaxy will see the Empire broken in one battle." Valen hissed, but she could not answer. The question cut too deep. The admirals argued, but fear grew thicker with each word. They were not facing a normal enemy. They were facing the unknown. On the dreadnought, the human crew stood ready. The commander watched the chaos unfolding across the Empire's channels. He could almost hear their fear through the silence. "They cannot decide," one officer said. "They do not need to," the commander replied. His voice was calm. "Soon their pride will force their hand. They cannot allow the galaxy to see hesitation. They must attack. And when they do, they will learn." The dreadnought's lights glowed faintly. Energy rippled along its hull. The Empire's sensors screamed warnings again, but still the ship did not fire. It was waiting for them. Admiral Cathar slammed his fist against the arm of his throne. "Enough, we are the Empire. We will not kneel to humans. Order the fleet to advance." The command spread like fire through the fleet. Engines roared. Thousands of ships moved into attack formation. Fighters swarmed out like a cloud of black wings. Cannons powered up, glowing brighter than suns. And still, the dreadnought did not move. The alien soldiers stared at it with wide, fearful eyes. Some whispered prayers. Others clenched their weapons tighter. The humans had not fired, but already, terror gnawed at their hearts. The first line of Empire cruisers locked weapons. Their systems targeted the dreadnought's hull. A countdown began. 3, 2, 1. Plasma fire erupted across the void. A storm of light and heat screamed toward the dreadnought. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of shots burned through the darkness, each powerful enough to shatter cities. The void shook with fire. The Empire's soldiers cheered in rage and fear. Finally, they had acted. Finally, they had shown their power. But when the fire cleared, their cheers died. The dreadnought was still there, unmoved, unbroken. The plasma storms had bent around it, swallowed by the strange energy that pulsed along its hull. Not a single scratch marked its black steel. Silence fell across the fleet, a silence colder than the void. The dreadnought's lights grew brighter. Its weapons came alive, and for the first time in centuries, the Empire's soldiers felt something they had forgotten. They felt fear. The plasma storm faded into darkness, leaving trails of dying light across the void. The Empire's fleet held its breath. Thousands of ships had fired at once, unleashing more destruction than most worlds had ever seen. But when the glare vanished, the human dreadnought still floated there. Silent, unshaken, its black steel shimmered with energy, glowing faintly as if the void itself obeyed its will. Not a dent, not a scar, not even a ripple showed across its hull. The Empire's officers stared in disbelief. Their weapons, their might, their pride, nothing had touched it. Admiral Kethar's throat tightened. "Impossible," he whispered. His voice was trembling now, though he forced his soldiers not to see it. No ship can survive that, and yet the dreadnought did. Inside the human vessel, the commander stood calm. His eyes never moved from the battlefield before him. The bridge was silent except for the steady hum of power gathering deep inside the ship's core. His crew looked to him, awaiting his word. "They have made their choice," the commander said softly. "Now we answer." The dreadnought's weapons came alive. First, a low vibration shook the void. Then light began to pulse along the ship's edges. Strange, unnatural light that bent and twisted like living fire. Alien scanners went wild. Energy readings spiked beyond known limits. Systems failed. Some ships lost power before the first shot was even fired. Then it came. The dreadnought fired once. A single beam of compressed gravity tore through space. It struck the Empire's front line. In an instant, 5 battleships crumpled like paper. Their hulls bent, twisted, and shattered, their crews swallowed by the crushing force. No explosion, no debris. Only silence and broken fragments drifting into the void. The Empire's soldiers screamed. Entire formations fell back in panic. Another weapon charged. This time, a dark lance of antimatter erupted from the dreadnought. It moved faster than light. A streak of destruction that tore through an entire squadron. Dozens of ships vanished in fire. Thousands of lives ended in seconds. The void shook with fury. Admiral Velan, watching from her command ship, slammed her claws together in horror. "This is not a ship," she hissed. "This is a world killer." Her officers scrambled for answers, shouting across the chaos. "Their weapons. Our shields cannot resist them." No technology in the galaxy matches this. This should not exist. But it did exist, and it was human. The dreadnought unleashed its fury again. Swarms of drones poured out of hidden bays, each one small, sharp, and merciless. They moved with impossible speed, weaving through the Empire's fighters. Where they flew, alien pilots died. One by one, the Empire's swarms collapsed. The dreadnought's missiles launched next. But they were no ordinary weapons. Dark matter warheads cracked open, swallowing entire cruisers into void storms. Hulls melted, engines froze, and crews screamed as reality itself shattered around them. In minutes, entire wings of the Empire's fleet were gone. Ships that had stood for centuries, commanders who had fought across countless wars, all destroyed by a single human vessel. The Empire's discipline broke. Orders vanished into fear. Captains shouted at each other, begging for retreat. Some ships fired blindly at the dreadnought, hoping to hit something, anything. Others fled, abandoning their formation, abandoning their honor. But there was no escape. The dreadnought's weapons reached across the stars. Each strike was precise, deadly, unstoppable. Every second brought new destruction. On the flagship, Admiral Kethar felt his pride crumble. He had never imagined this. He had believed humans were weak, unworthy, children of a young world. Now he saw the truth. Humanity was no longer fighting to survive. Humanity was teaching the galaxy to fear. Kethar's officers begged him for orders. "Admiral, we must fall back. Our ships are dying. Admiral, they are cutting through us like nothing." But Kethar could not answer. His eyes were locked on the dreadnought's image. In the glow of its fury, he saw the end of the Empire. Inside the dreadnought, the commander gave no smile, no cheer, no sign of triumph. His voice was calm, steady, as if this was not war but justice. "They brought this upon themselves," he said. "Show them no weakness," and the dreadnought obeyed. Another blast tore through the fleet. A flagship shattered in fire. A carrier collapsed, dragging hundreds of fighters into death with it. The Empire's fleet, once proud and unshakable, became a storm of panic. Thousands of voices screamed across comms, begging, cursing, praying. The galaxy's greatest power was breaking in front of its own soldiers, and in the silence between each blast, one truth grew louder. The galaxy was no longer ruled by the Empire, it was ruled by fear of humanity. The battlefield burned. Wreckage floated like broken bones across the void. The Empire's once endless fleet now looked shattered, scattered. broken by the fury of one ship. Yet the dreadnought still moved with the same slow calm, as if this destruction was nothing more than the beginning. Admiral Kethar stared in silence. His throat felt dry, his chest heavy. He had watched thousands of ships die, millions of lives vanish into darkness, and still he could not understand. How had humans built such power? How had they risen so quickly when for centuries the galaxy had called them weak? On the dreadnought's bridge, the human commander gave his crew new orders. "Activate the veil," he said. The ship obeyed. Suddenly, its form shimmered. Panels along the hull shifted, revealing layers of strange, pulsing energy. The dreadnought was not just armor and steel. It was alive with something greater. Gravity bent around it. Light warped. To the Empire's scanners, the dreadnought now looked infinite, larger than any fleet, as if the void itself had accepted it as its master. Fear spread like fire. "What is that?" Admiral Valen gasped on her flagship. Her insect eyes widened, her mandibles clacked in panic. "Their ship, it bends the laws of space." Her officers scrambled for answers, but no science, no knowledge of the Empire could explain what they were seeing. The human commander finally spoke across all channels. His voice cut through the chaos like a blade, calm, cold, clear. "You wanted to know what humanity has become. You will learn now." And then he revealed it. "This ship is not only human technology. It is the work of every war we survived. Every empire that tried to kill us, every weapon you used against us, every defeat we turned into victory. We learned. We adapted. We made them ours. You call us savages, but we are more than that. We are your reflection. Every strength you used against us we have taken. And now we are stronger than you." The words were simple, but to the Empire's soldiers they were heavier than any weapon. Because it was true. Humans had fought everyone. They had stolen knowledge from battles, from ruins, from enemies who underestimated them. And while the galaxy had mocked them as reckless, they had quietly prepared. The dreadnought itself was proof, built from human steel, powered by alien secrets, driven by human will. It was not just a ship. It was the future of humanity. On the Empire's comms, soldiers began to break. "This cannot be fought. They are not one world anymore, they are all worlds. Every empire will fall to them." The human commander's voice grew colder. "We told you to leave. We told you not to provoke us. You chose pride. Now you see the result. This is the age of humanity." The dreadnought moved forward. Each step of its engines made the void tremble. Around it, the Empire's remaining ships tried to regroup, but their lines crumbled again. Some fired in desperation. Their shots vanished against the dreadnought's shield. Others fled, engines burning, abandoning the fight. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was not feared. It was the one afraid. Inside the dreadnought, silence ruled. The crew was steady, their eyes sharp, their hands precise. They had no joy in this, no celebration. For them, this was not victory. This was justice. The commander spoke to his crew, though his words were carried on private channels. "They never believed us. They never listened. But they will remember this. They will tell the galaxy what they saw here today. And when they do, every empire will tremble." His second officer nodded. "And if they attack again?" The commander's face hardened. "Then we will show them worse." Another blast fired from the dreadnought's weapons. An Empire battlecruiser shattered in fire. Another squadron fell to the swarm of drones that moved like shadows, carving paths of death through their fighters. The galaxy's strongest fleet had become prey. Admiral Kethar slammed his claws against his throne. His pride was broken, his fleet destroyed, but his fury still burned. "We are the Empire," he roared to no one, his voice echoing across his empty bridge. "We do not kneel to humans." But his officers no longer listened. They looked at him with hollow eyes, filled not with loyalty but despair. They had seen the truth. The Empire was dying. The dreadnought stopped again. Its weapons held fire. Silence returned to the battlefield. The wreckage of thousands of ships drifted across the void, glowing faintly against the dark. And then the commander spoke one last time. "This was only one ship. Remember that. Only one." The words sent a chill through every surviving alien heart. If one dreadnought could destroy the Empire's fleet, how many more were hidden in the void? How many more were waiting? The silence pressed heavier than any weapon. The Empire had no answer. The galaxy had no answer. Only humanity did. The battlefield was silent again. Only fire and wreckage floated across the void. the broken remains of a fleet that had once ruled galaxies. The Empire's ships drifted without order, their formations gone, their pride shattered. Out of thousands, only a fraction remained. And in the middle of that graveyard of steel, the dreadnought still waited, unmoved, unshaken. Admiral Kethar sat frozen on his command throne. His golden armor, once a symbol of strength, felt like chains around his body. His officers avoided his gaze. Their screens showed nothing but destruction. The dreadnought had not only defeated them, it had broken them, he whispered to himself. One ship. Only one ship did this. His voice trembled. He could not accept it, yet the truth surrounded him. Humanity had changed the order of the galaxy. Across the fleet, desperate messages filled the comm channels. Captains begged for direction. Some pleaded for surrender. Others wept, confessing their fear aloud for the first time in their careers. And beneath all of it was the same question. What would the humans do next? The answer came soon. The dreadnought moved forward once more, slow and steady, through the wreckage of the Empire. Its black hull glowed faintly, still alive with power. To the survivors, it felt like a shadow of death passing by, sparing them only because it chose to. Then the human commander's voice returned, echoing across every channel. His words were quiet, but they carried more weight than thunder. The Empire is broken. Your fleet is gone. Your pride is shattered. Understand this. Humanity did not come here to beg. Humanity came here to end your reign of fear. The silence that followed was crushing. Entire species within the Empire heard those words. Soldiers, admirals, slaves, and rulers all understood the meaning. This was not only a battle. This was the beginning of something greater. Admiral Kethar's rage finally cracked through his fear. He rose to his feet, his claws trembling. "You will never replace the Empire," he shouted into the void. "We are eternal. We are," but his words were drowned out. The dreadnought's main cannon powered up again. A wave of light brighter than suns lit the void. A single shot tore through the flagship, splitting it in half. The golden vessel, symbol of the Empire's dominance, exploded into silence and flame. Kethar and his pride vanished with it. The survivors watched in terror. The Empire's heart had been cut out in a single moment. Their leader, their flagship, their command, all destroyed without hesitation. And then, to their shock, the dreadnought stopped firing. No more shots came. No more drones flew. No more destruction followed. The ship floated in the center of the battlefield, watching the broken survivors scatter. The commander's voice came again. "Return to your masters. Tell them what you saw. Tell them humanity will not bow. Tell them this was mercy. Next time there will be none." The survivors fled. Engines roared as the remaining cruisers, carriers, and fighters broke formation and escaped into hyperspace. They left their dead behind. They left their pride behind. And in their hearts they carried something heavier than loss. They carried fear. The dreadnought did not chase them. It did not need to. The message was already delivered. The galaxy would hear of this battle. Whispers would spread like wildfire. The humans had built a weapon beyond imagination, and with it they had crushed the Empire. On the dreadnought's bridge, the crew watched the fleeing ships vanish into the void. None of them spoke. Their faces showed no joy, no triumph. They knew what this meant. The commander looked out into the endless stars. His eyes were calm, but deep within them was something darker. Not celebration. Not relief. Only resolve. "This was only the first," he said quietly. His officers turned to him. "The first, sir?" He nodded. "The first empire to fall. Others will test us. Others will come. But now they will come in fear, not pride. And fear is our greatest weapon." Silence settled over the bridge. The crew understood. This was not the end. This was the beginning of a new war. A war not for survival, but for dominance. Far away across the galaxy, rulers of other empires would soon hear the news. They would hear how a single human dreadnought destroyed the strongest fleet in the known stars. They would hear how the Empire, once untouchable, had collapsed in one battle. And when they heard, they would tremble. The age of the Empire was ending. The age of humanity was beginning. The dreadnought turned slowly, its engines burning like silent suns. It vanished into the void, leaving behind only silence, fire, and the memory of fear. And as the galaxy whispered the story of that night, one truth spread across every world, every empire, every star: humanity was no longer the hunted. Humanity was the storm.